Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Shadis, and I'm at my friend's house in his garage because in California we're experiencing Santa Ana winds and they have not calmed down. So I'm gonna do my best to record this video. It's gonna be really hard with the wind and obviously lack of light because I'm kind of inside the garage. But bear with me and let's get straight into tips, tricks, and hacks. So again, this video, big disclaimer, is for those of you who are interested in jumping into the Veloster platform, or for those of you who maybe just bought one and picked it up, or for those that maybe have had one for a while and are just now considering dabbling in modifying it. So these are things that I've kind of gotten to learn with owning the car, and also common information that some people might want to know for the sake of knowing. So, please, for all of you haters and everybody else that's, really mad about 20-minute videos, bear with me. This video might not be for you, but for some of you, you might actually learn something. So let's get straight into it. And first, because we're at the front of the car, I'm gonna focus on bulbs. So down the line, and I'll go ahead and make sure to put an image of it. All right, so main headlight bulb is for the turbo will be an H11B, very specific, and I'll go over that in a moment. If you have a non-turbo, it'll be an H7. Following, going towards the inside for the high beam bulb will also be an H7. And finally, for the turn signal, you will have an 1156A for amber, and that's actually the same bulb for the rear turn signals as well. H7, just to give you guys a heads up, is also your daytime running light, as this car's high beam doubles as a daytime running light. Real quick, going down below, your fog light beam should be an H8. The only thing to note is that for nav owners, some of the first models actually use an 881 bulb instead of the typical H8. So if you guys have a 2012, 2013 Veloster, expect that minor difference. And before we head to the back, I'm going to show you why it's really important that you do H11B, not H11. So real quick, if you're back here, if you have a turbo model, you'll know that we have LEDs, but if you don't have a turbo model, your brake light bulb should be a 2357. Moving down, your backup bulb will be a 921. And finally, your turn signal, like I mentioned earlier, is at 1156A for amber. If we go down, your license plate light will be a 168, or it's also now known as a T10. So there's that. So the first little hack that I kind of want to point out is that all of the Velosters, when you buy them new, usually have this privacy cover. So when you close the hatch, nobody can see what you actually have inside of it. But a lot of you guys have seen that in my videos, I also use it to put my tools when I'm working on things. So you will literally just unhinge these on each side, and then you'll see that the little weight drops, and you'll unhinge this side, and voila, you now have, it's, not to put anything really heavy, but it ends up being a nice little bench to put things on, especially while you're getting work done. So real quick, putting this back up, another thing to mention that I've done myself is that sometimes I need more space in my trunk or more organization because I'm just kind of a neat freak. For those of you that don't know, in California, plastic bags from grocery stores and all stores have been banned. So what I did is I literally just bought Velcro cargo net. You could get these on eBay or Amazon. And I put a few rags and obviously shopping bags back here. So the nice thing is the Velcro adhesive sticks to the back of the rear seats. You can also get some that you can apply Velcro and attach them over here if you'd like. So yeah, these are just some quick life hacks for the hatch area in your trunk. Another thing is that you'll also have plenty of room down here because underneath this cover is where a spare tire would be, but these come with a refill kit, so you do have quite a few compartments underneath. So actually, let me lift this up for you. So lifting it up, you'll see the refill kit, and then obviously like I have some things here and little extra tools and things just in case. So if you want to have a clean trunk, that's kind of a nice addition. Also, for those of you that lucked out, we have a rear cargo net, or you can buy one if you don't have one. You don't have to buy one from the dealer. There's universal hooks on each end, so you can literally buy one much cheaper if your car didn't come with it. So another cool tip and trick that I'm going to give you guys is I am actually going to release a video explaining this more thoroughly, but for those of you guys that want to restore window visors, Meguiar's Plastex, and for those of you guys that want to bring back to life your black trimming, Mother's Back to Black. Like I said, I'll show you guys more in-depth video, But those are 2 tips and tricks on how to restore your accents. So from the inside, I know I've mentioned this before, but for those of you guys that are fond of this particular gauge cluster, this one actually came on the first gen models that were 2016 on up, including the R specs, the turbos, the bass, and the rally editions. So if you guys want this particular gauge cluster, you'll have to buy a 2016 model on up. Now, for those of you that are in the aftermarket trying to modify your car and would like this, you can actually get one of these gauge clusters and make it work for the previous models. They just require an extra adapter to make it work. So all is not lost. Another thing while we're in here is that I get the question of traction control and stability control. So for those of you guys that have not seen my other video, you'll notice that right here is a button. And if we tap that button once, you turn off traction control. Now, if you want to completely turn off stability as well, you actually have to hold that same button. You'll get that beep and traction and stability control disabled. If you want to re-enable everything back, whether you disabled one or both, you literally just tap that button once more. And there you go. Traction control and stability control are now re-engaged. Also, I thought this was really basic, but I do get a lot of questions about the custom wallpaper. So first and foremost, just to let you guys know, it only activates when you guys are either having the particular screen off, or if you put picture, because like once you're inside the actual like music section, it won't work. Like even if you're to press clock, it'll give you the clock momentarily and then it'll go back. So the only time you'll have that image is when you basically turn it off. It is nice to have, so for those of you guys that want to know how to do that. So from here, what you have to do is you actually have to save the image that's on your USB drive onto the built-in memory. So if you hit media, you'll notice that my photo, it's not lit up. It's because that's not how you actually get to the images. You actually have to hit back on the USB drive, and you'll go to list, and you'll see here that it says photo. So you'll hit photo, and then basically you're literally gonna scroll all the way down to wherever your photo is. I have wallpapers folder right here. And I'm a total weeb, so yes, anime girls and stuff. You'll click on the image that you like, and you can scroll through here and see which one you like. One thing I did notice while making this video is that I do have high-res PNG files on this folder, and it's not being read. So you will need a JPEG file to make sure that it works appropriately. So I'm gonna go back to the image I've always been using, and then in order to save it, you literally just have to press menu and photo frame. Image saved, close. So now we're gonna go back to media and see that my photo is lit up. So that means that this is the only photo, as you can see, because there's no arrows, saved into your onboard memory. So just to show that it works, I'm basically gonna go back, and by default it always goes to the last thing you were doing. So I'm gonna go back to my list and make sure to play some music over here. So going back to the song that I was on. Now we can go to setup. I can go to screensaver. And under image, now you'll hit search, and there'll be the image that you saved. You'll click on it, you'll see that it shows up, you'll hit done, then just make sure that it's still an image, and whatever you chose, you'll hit done once more. And now, when I go back to media, playing the media element that I was using last, but if I turn this off, you'll notice that there is the new splash screen / wallpaper. So whenever you turn it off, it'll go back to this, and then obviously when you turn it back on, you'll go back to the last thing that you were playing, which in this case was music. So yeah, pretty simple. Now that I showed you guys how to go ahead and put your wallpaper, obviously we have music. So the next tip and trick is, for those of you guys that don't just use streaming, having or investing in a USB flash drive. So this one right down here is super tiny. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out to show you, but it is literally the size of a thumb, if not less. And essentially you can store a ton of music in here. And then the nice thing is that once you plug it in, so plugged in, the car will automatically read it, and you can have a library of music at your disposal, especially if you live in areas where maybe XM radio doesn't work too well, or you don't want to constantly be using your phone data. You can literally go to media, hit your USB, obviously there's that, and it'll play. But if you go to list, you'll notice that when I go to home, I have tons of folders, some that are just, pre-made playlists, others that are literally albums from artists that I like, from rock, hip hop, all the way to EDM and the such. So that's kind of a nice little hack for those of you guys that have large music collection. Oh yeah, I guess while we're in here, another thing to note is the dome light bulbs. So the ones right here in the front, they're considered your map light. They both use DE3175 bulbs along with your actual main dome light, which is back here. Yes, for those of you looking to buy, we essentially have 3 lights. These are currently set to not turn on when I have the door open, just the back, because I have pretty bright LED. So there's that. Also, if you guys are wondering what the hatch one is, the specific bulb for the hatch is a 6418. So it is a little different from the ones used on the interior. And apparently, actually, these ones also are DE3175. So if you want to replace these for LEDs, those for LEDs, and that for LED, DE3175, and then your trunk cargo area light is a 6418. Actually, one other last tip that I forgot to mention to you guys is that if you have a 2016 Veloster with a tech package, you can actually update your particular head unit to accept Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You just have to go to, I believe it's myhyundai.com to grab the download file. And again, using that flash drive I just showed you, you can manually update. So you will have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay at your disposal. I must stress, it has to be a 2016 model on up. Those have a specific SD card slot right here. And if any of the older tech packages unfortunately don't have the functionality to be able to update to that system, so I wouldn't attempt to try it. But all is not lost, even though this is very basic. The nice thing is that a lot of these head units, even the non-tech package ones, do have some sort of basic voice command, and it works rather well. So I'm going to show you real quick. My phone is connected to Bluetooth, and we're at my friend Dan's house. So if you see this button right here on the steering wheel, you will literally tap it, and the assistant will come up asking you what you'd like to do. So let's do that. Call Dan.
Name, line please.
So sadly, it's hit or miss. She didn't work that well, but she normally works pretty well with the people that I normally call, which would be, you know, like my mom or dad or, you know, Stacy and whatnot. So that is something that you can rely on. Again, it'll be hit or miss. It's not the most accurate, but it does come quite helpful in a pinch. For those of you guys that have manuals, real quick, make sure that if you're trying to buy a custom shift knob for your vehicle or just one that's more unique, it looks like the actual thread point is a 1/2 inch. And make sure that when you do buy a shift knob, also take into consideration the reverse lockout, because there's a lot of shift knobs that don't have it, so you'll have kind of an issue with those, or it just won't sit flush, it'll sit raised. So make sure it's 1/2 inch thread and a lockout into consideration. For those of you that have the automatic transmission version, I'll just link you to the video in the description where we kind of go more into depth. So while we're on the subject of where are things located, your cabin air filter is actually located right behind your glove compartment. So the first things that you're going to want to address are, you will essentially remove this little tab right here that I'm pointing at. Then you'll also remove this one right here. You literally twist and turn and then pull them out, and then this whole compartment will drop down. So it'd be a smart idea to remove your items. Also, while I was in here, I managed to find these cables that, I don't know if many of you remember, but one of the cool features about the Veloster was that you were able to supposedly attach like a game system and play using the main screen up here. So this is the cable that you would need. It literally plugs into your auxiliary, and then I know most consoles use HDMI cables, so you'll have to find some sort of adapter for that. But utilizing this, you'll actually be able to get a video signal, so you can play some sort of fun stuff. Or for those of you more modern people, you can attach something like a Raspberry Pi and play some retro games very portably. But back to the cabin air filter. So I untwisted that one, I untwist this one, and then just pull it out. You'll have to raise this a little bit. And as you can see, right there is where the cabin air filter is. We're gonna go ahead and literally just pull that latch forward, and I'll show you the filter and how to put in the new one. I already kind of unhinged it, but you'll pull back and it comes right off. It does clip in, so when you pull it out, it's like this. Make sure that this flap is the part that goes up. It's a little like rubber flap to allow air, and as you can see, it states right there clearly up. So once you remove that, you'll see that there's the cabin air filter. Comes right out. so this one's overdue for a change, which is why we're here. So one thing to note is that when you remove this, obviously you saw me take it out this way, you'll notice here that there's a little arrow pointing down. The replacement should say something like airflow down or whatnot, or it'll just have the arrow pointing down. This one is a Fram that I'm going to test out because my air was kind of smelling a little funky, so I'm trying this out. I'll let you guys know how it worked out. But again, insert with the text to the side. You'll see that it goes in like so, and then the next part is you just put the cover on and then all your junk back in and you're set. So all right, so obviously just to make sure everything goes back in place, you reverse the process. So you'll lift this up a bit, insert this, it goes only one way, then you just twist and lock. There you go. Also, for those of you guys that haven't seen my whole routing of a dash cam, if you're wondering what this cable is, this is probably also a good time to route a dash cam cable if you were trying to make it a little more hidden, because you can obviously route it behind the glove box compartment. And then just make sure that right here you tuck it in so that way this seals without kinking the cable. So for those of you that are obviously trying to add some color or aesthetic to your car, let's go talking a little bit about tips and tricks with vinyl wrap. So unfortunately I only have 2 shades of vinyl wrap with me today. I thought I had all my color swaps, but as you can tell, the one thing why I really address doing this in sunlight is because the colors will show up differently. So as you can see right here, because of the tree above us, this comes out a slightly different color, and then yeah, see, the sun just hit it. But then when you go into the shade, it looks different. So again, can't stress enough, make sure you check these out both in sunlight and obviously in the shade to see what color you can expect to get. Another thing is, depending on where you're gonna put it, make sure you kind of put it near what you're gonna use it for. So I know I was putting it against a carbon fiber hood, but if you're gonna use it for example, like the actual body, then you might want to put it against the actual color of your paint, especially if you're only gonna use it for accenting. Same thing as if you're gonna use it in the interior. So try to get it in the sun, but also try to get it in the shade so that way you can have an idea of what it's gonna look like under both conditions. Hey, so we're underneath the hood. So tips and tricks, obviously you guys will know that for GDI engines, I always highly recommend having at least a single oil catch can that goes to the PCV side. For those of you wondering where that side is, it is actually, well, let me lift this up. So it is the hose that normally connects here, and the other hose is actually this one right here that is I'm pointing at. As you can see, there's a coupler for the other side of the hose connected to the oil catch can. So there's that. But while we're down here, things to know and where to locate things. For those of you guys getting a tune and wondering where your guys' ECU is at, it is right here, right behind the battery. Other important things, the radiator is obviously underneath here. The intercooler is also underneath here, and so is the blow-off valve. So for those of you interested in a blow-off valve, you at least have to lift this portion of the front bumper to get there. So there's that. Your alternator is right there. And last but not least, your starter is underneath the intake manifold. So yeah, you have to tear apart quite a bit. Your thermostat is also a pain because it's also somewhere down there. And finally, the obvious, your coils and spark plugs are underneath this cover right there. All 4. All right guys, and then just to wrap things up, if you guys need to know where your fuse boxes are, or if you have a check engine light and you need to diagnose it, the one inside the car is literally right here. Just to show you, on the driver's side, you go down, you pull this tab, there is your OBD2 port and a handful of fuses up there. The other fuse part is obviously underneath the hood, like all other cars, but it's just nice to know that your onboard diagnostic is really easily accessible. While I'm down here, I know that for a lot of people, the whole concept of wheel size and offsets can be confusing. I know that many of us strive to be flush with the body because of course the stock wheels don't sit flush with the body. So this is up here one of the wheel specs that you could look forward to that will definitely be flush, and even if you were to lower your car with just lowering springs, will clear and not rub perfectly. So if you guys are looking for a wheel spec to be flush, there you go, because as you can see, we are flush with the body. All right, so real quick for this portion of the video, I just want to show you the DRL. So these are only on as long as the handbrake is down. So if we put on the handbrake, you see that they're off. Now releasing the handbrake once more, so clearly the DRLs are on, but another thing that will shut them off is turning on the appropriate side turn signal. So as you see, the right turn signal is on and the DRL is off, but once the turn signal goes off, and the DRL comes back. So yeah, just little minor things that you'll want to know because it's kind of annoying. Lastly, while we're down here, the fog lights will only turn on if your headlights are completely on. So turning on the headlights, and you see that they turned on. Even if you have the little switch to turn them on and off, these will never light up unless your headlights are on. So you could, yeah. But obviously when your headlights are on, your DRLs turn off as well. So yeah, just little things to note. Sorry guys, I look like a mess because it was really hot, but I get asked all sorts of things. So this is the lightning round. I'm gonna go through things that I normally get asked. Some of them might seem really dumb, but hopefully some of them are helpful and just my opinions. So first off, how low can you go? You can go quite low. Lowering springs, for the most part, won't make you rub. And if you don't get an aggressive like 2-inch drop, lowering springs are actually really comfortable. Number 2, loudness. If I do a muffler delete, will I be loud? Yes. If I get a blow-off valve, will it be loud? Yes. And if I get an intake, will it be loud? Yes. If you buy an intake, or even if you just do the cone filter adapter, you're gonna notice a lot of engine noise. In particular, you're gonna hear a lot of the turbo sounds, the spooling and the suction. So you can hear it internally even if you don't have an exhaust. If that, or if you feel like that might be a problem, I would probably suggest against an intake. And there are tons of owners on the forums that have previously bought intakes and actually go back to the stock system because it's just that loud. Nobody faults you. If it's not for you, it's not for you. If I have mud flaps, will I scrape? Yes and no. At stock ride height, probably not unless you're going over speed bumps. But if you lower your car even on springs with something minor like a 1.5 inch drop, you will definitely scrape your mud flaps almost everywhere. Not a big deal though. If I get turn signal LEDs, will I hyperflash? Yes, unless you get CAN bus units or units that have built-in resistors. Otherwise, you will have to get resistors for each LED turn signal that you do, and that's a total of 4. So if you do not want to hyperflash, spend the extra money to get a CAN bus unit, or a CAN bus set, or get resistors. Another one I get a lot is for headlights, LED or HID. Personally, because LED technology has gone so far, I would personally say LED, unless you're gonna spend the extra money and do a complete proper retrofit. Only reason why I'm saying that is because the heat that an HID generates, while I know LEDs also generate heat, will eventually, depending on how often you drive at night, deteriorate the inner reflective elements, thus making HIDs a lot less effective. So again, my personal preference would be LED, but I digress. The choice is up to you. Is the car fast or quick? I would honestly say neither. The car is extremely fun, and obviously there's a lot that you could do with. The market for this particular generation and this particular platform just continues to grow. However, fast, it is a 200 horsepower vehicle. I wouldn't say that it's gonna necessarily be fast. Compared to cars built in the 90s, it probably is considered a quick vehicle, but considering the horsepower numbers that are being put out nowadays, I don't think it's gonna get anywhere near touching that unless you're dropping a good amount of money. So if that's your ultimate end goal, you might wanna start off with a better platform. Now, if you want something affordable, whether it's with the price of the car or insurance wise, this car is really hard to beat. It's really fun, it's practical. Like I said, there's just so much to do, and sometimes the community could be really cool and fun, just depending on, you know, the type of person you are. All right guys, well that about sums things up for me. I'm gonna be logging off. Hopefully I was able to address a lot of the situations that people normally ask me. Hopefully one of these things that I did in this video addresses your particular concern or was informative. Again, for those of you guys that have been following me, this video might not be for you. Maybe, hopefully you found out something new. Maybe you didn't. Again, it's the last 3 months of the year, so a lot of people like to buy cars this time around, especially with new generations coming in. Car sales aren't doing so hot, so dealerships are doing really big discounts. And again, because the Veloster is an affordable platform, you can honestly pick one up for a great bargain right now. So for those of you guys looking into this car from a modification standpoint, or just trying to see, you know, things to be aware of, hopefully I address some of those. If not, or if you want more information, obviously check out the rest of my videos. And for those of you guys that are usually here for the mods and everything, we'll be back to those real soon. As always guys, thanks for all the love and support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Crap, I was gonna say something else, I forgot.